Now, I'm going to take things in a slightly happier direction here, if you'll let me. For my final film, I'm going back to the beginning. The Wizard of Oz is a movie I've seen a million times and never get sick of it. The older I get, the more I see new things and respond in new ways. And yet, it's the earliest memory I have of a film that truly moved me, the one that planted the seed for my lifelong love of movies. Now, we all know the story, but here goes. Judy Garland stars as Dorothy Gale, a young girl living with her aunt and uncle on a farm in Kansas. Feeling neglected, as if no one's listening to her but her little dog Toto, she dreams of a place without trouble.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
But then a tornado comes, whisking Dorothy and Toto to the land of Oz. And this is, of course, the iconic moment where the Wizard of Oz shifts from black and white to color, an astounding thing back in 1939. As she tries to get back home, Dorothy meets a colorful cast of characters, including the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. They've heard about a wizard who can solve all their problems.
Oh, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Here he is, the Wiz of a Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever, oh, ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does.
But the Wicked Witch of the West is still angry that Dorothy killed her sister when she dropped into Oz and sends an army of flying monkeys to hunt her down. This made me hide behind the coffee table when I was a little girl. Now, there's a troubled history of how The Wizard of Oz got made. Changes in directors and key cast members, Munchkin shenanigans, and major injuries, even to Toto. But when you're a little kid, it's just magical. It speaks to universal fears of loneliness, the need for companionship, and it's a reminder that, no matter how old you are, there's no place like home.
Now, my film doesn't have a troubled production history, but it did take almost a decade to make. I can think of no single work that has had a bigger influence on me than an 8-part, 10-year project by the legendary director Jean-Luc Godard called Histoire du Cinéma, a moving, multi-layered film that is part essay and part poem.
Nous voulons voyager, sans vapeur et sans voile. Faites pour égayer l'ennui de nos prisons. Passer sur nos esprits, tendus comme une toile. Vos souvenirs avec leur cadre d'horizon.
In French, the word for story and history is the same, histoire. So one possible translation of Histoire du Cinéma could be the story of cinema. It's a story that Godard tells using layered sound, intertitles in many languages, and clips from many films put in a new context. Just watch.
Projection, donc bêtement, je dis, c'est la grande histoire. Parce qu'elle peut se projeter. Les autres histoires ne peuvent que se réduire. Celle-là peut se projeter. Donc mon but, hélas, comme ce petit poème de Brecht qui disait j'examine avec soin mon plan. Il est irréalisable.
Out of all the many ideas in Godard's film, the one that I'm drawn to the most is that there is a single story of cinema, made up of all the images and all the sounds and ideas and feelings of all movies. And it reminds me of a saying beloved by Godard's fellow New Wave pioneer Claude Chabrol, that there are no waves, there is only the ocean. This film is not currently available on DVD, but you can find it on the internet.
So we should let Roger pick a film too, right? That would be charitable of us? That'd be kind?
Maybe, right. I guess.
Now, Roger Ebert told us that the movie that made him a critic is Citizen Kane. When he saw it in high school, he started thinking in a new way about the connection between directors and films. This is Roger's own voice this week from the commentary track he did for the DVD.
Whenever I'm asked what the greatest film of all time is, I always say Citizen Kane. I must confess that I always think that question is a little bit silly because I don't know how you can compare different kinds of films and rank them in a list. But Citizen Kane to me is so inventive, so fresh every time you see it, so new. I never get tired of it. In 1939, Orson Welles, a child prodigy who had become a radio and theater star in New York, got one of the most amazing contracts ever offered by Hollywood, complete control over a motion picture to be made at RKO Radio Pictures. He would be able to write it, direct it, produce it, star in it, have the final cut. It would be released exactly as he wanted it to be released. His movie Citizen Kane was based on, so everyone thought, the story of William Randolph Hearst, the press baron who owned newspapers, radio stations, wire services, controlled a lot of the information in America, although Welles always denied that, partially because the Hearst press was so opposed to the film and there was a possibility of lawsuits. Here is the most famous montage in the movie, the famous breakfast table montage showing the disintegration of a marriage. Here they are as the young newlyweds, very happy, sitting close together, same end of the table, but now she looks a little more dubious. Notice the makeup here is adjusted to age them. They shot this sequence in reverse order, taking off layers of makeup on Kane rather than putting them on. They shot the older Kane first, then the little bit less older Kane, and so forth down to the young Kane. Their dialogue here involves increasing differences over their marriage, over their politics, over his treatment of her uncle, the president, over their happiness with each other. And notice that all of these shots have been alternating medium shots. The very first shot of the montage was a two-shot, showing the two of them so cozy and close together at the end of the table. Now there hasn't been another two-shot, but just these alternating medium shots. Notice she's reading the Chronicle now, he's reading the Enquirer, and then the camera pulls back and we get another two-shot. So the sequence began with them very close together in a two-shot, now it ends with them far away. And here is one of the most mysterious and beautiful haunting sights in all of the cinema, the mirror shot. The many, many, many Charles Foster Kanes. Sad, resigned, and looking nothing at all like the 25-year-old man that he was when he played the role. This scene never ceases to amaze audiences because you have the feeling of a great revelation. Of course, the famous sled, and they had to burn the sled over and over again. They got closer and closer and closer to the burning rosebud here by using an optical blow-up to get closer than the physical camera really could get. And so we find out the secret, which really explains nothing at all.
It's hard to argue with that.
That's true, and I feel like we probably feel the same way about the films we've picked, that they're fresh every time we see them.
Definitely. Okay, thank you so much, Roger. Now, I love this show because our picks are so different, and they reflect how diverse we all are as moviegoers.
That's it for this week. Don't forget that you can join the discussion by following us on Facebook and Twitter and at ebertpresents.com.
Join us next week as we cover new films out in theaters. Until then, the balcony is closed.
The name of our show is opening soon at a theater near you. Two film critics talking about the movies, and this is Roger Ebert, the film critic from the Chicago Sun-Times.
And right over here is Gene Siskel, the film critic from the Chicago Tribune and Channel 2 News.
The point of our show is to sort of be a news magazine about movies, and we want to show you what's playing in town, what's coming to town, and also maybe take you behind the scenes and show you a little bit about the movie business.
Right.
For more reviews and more from Roger's office, visit our website at ebertpresents.com.